Anti-ICE protesters in Minneapolis just crossed a line that should terrify every single American. They didn't just throw rocks and chant slogans. They broke into a federal vehicle, stole weapons and ammunition, then disappeared into the chaos. The FBI is now hunting for armed rioters who literally looted law enforcement firearms. But here's what the mainstream media won't tell you about what's really happening. You think this is just another protest story? And think again. We're talking about armed civilians who now possess stolen federal weapons and ammo. These are not your typical demonstrators. They're people willing to break into government vehicles and steal firearms. Meanwhile, ICE agents are trying to arrest Venezuelan criminals, including rapists and drug traffickers, while Democrat governors like Tim Walz actively obstruct their operations. And the White House is slamming Minnesota leadership for turning up the temperature and making ICE officers targets for violence. When protesters steal weapons from federal agents, we've crossed from civil disobedience into something far more dangerous. Your family's safety depends on law enforcement being able to do their jobs without being shot at or having their weapons stolen. And speaking of being prepared for dangerous times, I do need to tell you about today's sponsor. I need to ask you something. If the power went out tonight, if the stores were empty tomorrow, would you be ready? See, most people aren't, and that's why I always recommend My Patriot Supply. And right now they've got a special deal on their 3-month emergency food kit. You'll save $100, but only while supplies last. Now, the kit gives you over 2,000 calories a day for 90 days. That's real food. All packed in sturdy buckets, last up to 25 years, made it right here in the United States. No MSG, no junk, just food you can count on when it matters most. And they've got fast free shipping, 30-day return policy, disaster replacement guarantee. Who does that? America's going to need some heroes very soon. Will you be one of them? You already know what's coming. So why wait until the world falls apart to start protecting your people? By then it'll be too late. Your window of opportunity will be closed, boarded up for good. So get the life-saving food that your family needs and do it right now. It lasts up to 25 years. Don't worry you're jumping the gun. The food you buy today will be ready to eat in the delicious moment things take a turn. So when disaster strikes, your family will be eating 3 delicious meals a day, and you'll be the hero who made it happen. So do what I did. Go to preparewithgary.com. Hell, I even started a website for it. That's preparewithgary.com. Get prepared and get peace of mind. Now back to this Minneapolis situation. Spiraling out of control. So this is the part that's going to make your blood boil. I'm sorry, but the Department of Homeland Security just revealed all 3 illegal aliens involved in last night's violent attack on law enforcement were let into the country by who? The Biden administration. One of them, Julio Cesar Sosa Salis from Venezuela, already had a criminal record. The press secretary had explained that ICE was conducting a self-defense shooting while trying to arrest this Venezuelan criminal. Self-defense because they're being attacked while doing their jobs. Laura Ingraham, not too pleased. What a horrible, stupid man. She sets the stage for all the chaos that's happening. DHS statement to Fox News regarding the ICE-involved shooting in Minnesota. 6:50 p.m. Central Time. Federal law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted traffic stop in Minneapolis of an illegal alien from Venezuela who was released into the country.
Get the fuck out! out of here! Go! Get out! Get out of here! Stop fucking running, bitch! Fucking running, hoe ass bitches! Fuck you!
You know what's wild about the footage you just saw? You see they're driving a Chrysler Pacifica? And I was at an event, we'll say, and I mentioned that I noticed that they're all driving Pacificas. I never thought I'd own a minivan, but yes, I own a Pacifica. And I love it. Probably one of the greatest vehicles I've ever owned. And I made note of it. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty smart that they got the Pacifica because it's got the automatic doors. You know, a lot of these minivans have that now. They can open those doors, close them automatically. It's like mechanical, perfect. And who I was talking to said that they are all rented. That DHS is renting these from a certain rental company, and a lot of times they come back destroyed. And I just thought that was interesting because I had made note of it. Where are they getting these Pacificas? Like, they all look the same and they're all rented. Can you imagine like walking up to the rental counter? Yeah, I need a rental vehicle. So the DHS statement gives us the official federal perspective, but wait until you see what's happening on the ground. Video: protesters in Minnesota a short time ago after the man was shot in the leg by a federal officer who was reportedly attacked outside the apartment at 600 block of 24th Avenue North. DHS says the officer was ambushed by an illegal alien and two other people. Here's some more of that footage following the incident. Doesn't appear to be any audio on this, but you can see that's definitely not a rented vehicle with all of the outfitted lights, but look at the mob surrounding the vehicle. So they shoot a Venezuelan gang member in the streets, and then the gangs, look at, they're throwing firecrackers. This is deadly, what's happening there. Oh, boy. And see, this is all being egged on by the governor, by the mayor, and all of them. Protests turning violent, federal agents deploying crowd control measures to maintain order, thick green smoke seen on the scene. ICE involves shooting, smoke grenades, political grandstanding. Here's how a local incident becomes national. Indian Representative Shari Thander files legislation to abolish ICE. Good luck with that, dude. So while Minneapolis streets burn, politicians in Washington are weaponizing the crisis for maximum political gain. Unreal. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons slamming Mayor Frey.
You know, it sounds like the mayor wants to work with ICE, and he, is appreciative of what we would do, but he's not doing that. We are going out up to the worst of the worst, and we've already highlighted what some of our worst of the worst have we released. And there were rapists, murderers, like he said, that were re-released back into the community because of sanctuary policies. So that isn't working with ICE, and that's not putting the best interest of your constituents and your communities ahead of political ideology.
They are putting above the interests of their constituents, which is pretty much par for the course. ICE leadership is firing back at local officials, setting up direct confrontation between federal and city authorities. Tom Homan explains how ICE surge in Minneapolis is entirely self-inflicted. I'm going to get that for you. Tom Homan never holds back. Let's see, where did we put that? Here it is. Tom Homan firing back.
People, we're going to find these criminals and make this America safe again. So if they don't let us in a jail, we're going to go in the community. And the difference is, in places that's not a sanctuary, one agent can walk into a jail and arrest one criminal illegal alien. But when you release them in the community, now we got to send the whole team because we got to arrest somebody on their turf. They have access, who knows what weapons. It makes it dangerous for the officer, makes it dangerous for the alien, certainly makes it dangerous for the community. So if Minneapolis wants to help, like I saw Mayor Frey do an interview this morning, let us in your damn jail. What's the downside of letting a federal law enforcement officer with immigration authority talk to an illegal alien that you already locked up and put in a jail cell? It's ridiculous that they're pushing back on that. President Trump made his promise to American people, we're going to find these criminals and make this America safe again. So if they don't let us in a jail, we're going to go in the community. The difference is, in places that's not a sanctuary, one agent can walk into a jail and arrest one criminal illegal alien. But when you release them in the community,
Moving right along, Speaker Mike Johnson telling Democrats to screw off. ICE will never be defunded, no matter how hard they threaten government
This
shutdown.
is no time to be playing games with national security and public safety, and that's what Democrats are doing, beating the drums up here. Remember what ICE stands for. It's Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They are enforcing the law. They are apprehending the dangerous criminals who were allowed into our country because Joe Biden kept the border wide open for 4 years. An estimated more than 20 million people came in. Many of them are a great danger to our community. A lot of them have collected in cities like Minneapolis. You know, these sanctuary cities, they're all there, and so ICE has to go and do its job. There's a lot of spin on the Democrat side. They're assaulting our law enforcement officers, and they're breaking the law. They need to get out of the way and allow federal law enforcement to do its duty. That serves all the American people.
It is national security, but people just want to play politics because Orange Man's bad. Orange Man's so bad. Speaker Johnson's defiance shows Republicans are doubling down despite mounting political pressure. New unearthed footage with CNN doing a ride-along with ICE in 2016 where they're supporting the operations. This aged very poorly.
Attack one, guys.
An immigration and customs enforcement team gears up for another long day, pursuing undocumented immigrants who have been convicted of crimes in the U.S. ICE agents mistakenly arrest the target's brother.
In the process of talking to him in the vehicle, he then said, "Oh, no, I'm actually so-and-so. Who you're looking for is over here, this other address." He led us to that address, and we were able to actually arrest the individual.
Do you have evidence, right, that he's using a fake identity, or?
That is correct. We believe he's been using a U.S. citizen's identity to live and work. He has an Illinois driver's license. Third target, he has an unauthorized use of a weapon, which was a firearm. He has a couple DUIs. He is a criminal. He has an extensive criminal history. And by taking him out of the community, it's making the community safer. And that's ICE's purpose, is to focus on criminals and community safety by taking these recidivist criminals out of our communities.
Well, as a journalist, I saw you really leaning in there. What are you? What's going through your
curious.
mind?
Yeah, I mean, like the game's changed, right? The language changed, the positions have changed. I think we've learned a lot about Minneapolis over the past 5 years, going back to George Floyd. And one thing that I learned about its police department, based on its population, I wonder if they're understaffed or
100%,
like less than full civil support. Minneapolis has a population of 428,000. They have 600 sworn officers. Oakland, California has relatively the same amount population-wise. They have 700. Wichita, Kansas, 650. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 800. New Orleans, fewer people, 1,000 cops. Miami, Florida, about the same, 2,000 cops.
2,000 cops. CNN, though, that's the joke. That's the joke. doing a ride along. Did you notice the composure of that agent? Totally casual, just doing his job, and didn't feel like he was under duress in any situation. Now they have to hide their identities because of the threats they're getting. It exposes the hypocrisy of the media. But the medical details are telling the story next. The ICE agent who shot Renee Good in the alleged car ramming incident, according to ABC News, suffered internal bleeding. Multiple U.S. officials familiar with his medical condition told ABC News. Remember when Mayor Frey said, "Oh, it was like he hurt himself closing the fridge with his hip." That's how the mayor of Minneapolis described it. But no, he had internal bleeding. The ICE agent's internal bleeding proves this was not a minor incident. It was a serious assault on a federal law enforcement officer. Border Commander Greg Bovino firing back with perfect response to Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey telling ICE to get the F out. Listen.
Your response to the mayor, Matt, we've said this again, Matt. Your response to the mayor telling ICE to get the F out of the city.
Sure, Mayor Frey seems to, again, Matt, we've said this many times, choose illegal aliens and criminal illegal aliens over the American citizens in his city. Let me say that again. He chooses criminal aliens, aliens that would harm children, kill, rape, and maim American citizens. He chooses them over his own citizens.
Choosing them. That's what they do. It's all political posturing. Border officials are escalating the rhetoric against Minneapolis leadership while new medical evidence supports the federal response. ICE agent Ramd suffered internal bleeding in his torso because he was indeed struck hard. You heard him scream on that. The confirmed internal injuries validate federal claims of critics are expanding their attacks beyond the single incident. Rapid response. Steve says Americans oppose mass Somali fraud. Americans are by overwhelming majorities just oppose Somali refugee resettlement in principle. Minnesota was once a pristine state. Perfect education, no crime, no unrest. What do they call it? This? The land of 1,000 lakes? Now it's the land of a million fraudsters. Secretary Noem slamming the mainstream media.
Because if you look at a lot of news with weapons. Because if you look at the mainstream press, they're helping them. They're misportraying the situation on the ground. We had an officer last night viciously attacked with weapons, 3-on-1, where his life was in danger, and he defended himself. And you see a lot of news reports out there that it was another ICE shooting. They didn't report anything about the weapons or the fact that these individuals came out of a home to beat him mercilessly with a shovel, and that he had to protect his own life and his colleagues that were soon coming to back him up. So absolutely, I think that this is a distraction for him. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to continue to talk about the fraud and the stealing from the American taxpayers that he has allowed to have happen in Minneapolis. It is the largest fraudulent scheme in American history, we believe. It's in Minnesota. We're going to get to the bottom of it and bring people to justice, even the elected officials that allowed it to happen.
Two more. The elected officials behind it. It's all, again, you have Jacob Frey, you've got Walls, you've got Ilhan Omar. They're protecting the racket. Secretary Noem's defense comes as she reveals the administration is considering the most extreme federal intervention possible. Here she is at the sticks.
No plans to pull out of Minnesota.
Do you have any plans to pull out of Minnesota?
No plans to pull out of Minnesota.
How would you describe what you were seeing on the ground there? Would you describe it as an insurrection? And do you believe the president should invoke the Insurrection Act?
I describe it as violent and a violation of the law in many places. I discussed with the president this morning several things that we are dealing with under the department and different operations. We did discuss the Insurrection Act. He certainly has the constitutional authority to utilize that. My hope is that this leadership team in Minnesota will start to work with us to get criminals off the streets.
Well, that's all. That's what it's about. The Insurrection Act discussing shows how serious this has become, with state Republicans now breaking ranks with their governor. Minnesota House Floor Leader Larry Niska says Governor Tim Walz's extreme and reckless rhetoric makes everyone feel less safe, fans the flame of hate and division, and emboldens Minnesotans to interfere with and attack law enforcement. We must speak thoughtfully. ICE is going directly after Mayor Frey with strategic comparison that highlights the political divide. Mayor Frey, they write, U.S. and Customs Enforcement. Why isn't there chaos when we do operations in states like Texas, Louisiana, and Florida? It's because those states and localities work with ICE to take criminal, illegal, alien, rapist, murderers off the street. This guy.
Meanwhile, we have ICE agents throughout our city and throughout our state who, along with Border Control, are creating chaos.
The only people who are creating chaos is this guy right there. Jim Jordan links to the evidence in his tweet. It's about to reshape the entire narrative completely.
And joining me now is the House Judiciary Committee Chair. That will be Jim Jordan. Governor Walz urging people to take pictures of agents so they can be prosecuted, Congressman. Wow. Are you okay with that? I don't believe you're okay with that. That's a terrible thing.
No, think what the ICE officers have had to endure over the last several months, trying to do their job, trying to enforce federal law. They've been doxxed, they've been tracked, they've been harassed, they got pictures taken of them. In some cases, they've been attacked with a shovel, for goodness sake. So that's the environment they're in. And what is the Democrats' response? What is the left's response? Oh, let's impeach the Secretary of Homeland Security. That makes no sense. That is just, again, shows how crazy I think today's left is. So, yeah, I feel for these ICE agents. I think most Americans do, trying to do their work, trying to do their job, trying to enforce the law in that environment. That is difficult. So maybe the mayor, at least the mayor said, stop the craziness, the rioting that's going on. I get that. That's a start after all the crazy things he said and Governor Walz has said. But yeah, this environment that they're in is so difficult.
It sure is. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem joined America's Newsroom in the last hour. Listen to what she said about the president threatening the Insurrection Act. Watch this.
That certainly is within the president's constitutional authority to use that if he thinks he needs to keep people safe. What I love about this president is the very first question that he asks me is, how are you doing and how are our people doing in this country? How are the people doing and our law enforcement officers? What can we do to keep them safe, but to also make sure we're bringing dangerous criminals to justice?
If the president invokes the Insurrection Act, what does that mean? How does that follow through in practice? And are you okay with it?
Yeah, again, this is the president making sure, as the secretary indicated, making sure that people are safe, that communities are safe, that law enforcement can do their job, not have to have shovels and, people with shovels and broomsticks attacking them. I mean, that's the president's focus. I mean, I think what the president did here in D.C. when he brought in National Guard here in D.C., think how crime went down. Everyone felt safer. So the president is, I think, rightly so, focused on reducing crime, reducing violence, and providing a safe environment. I just think the Democrats' response is so. Remember, it was okay for the Biden administration and Secretary Mayorkas to allow 8 million people to just flood into our country. That was fine. But if you enforce the law, it's okay to dox, harass, attack ICE agents who are doing their job and try to impeach the Secretary of Homeland Security. That again, makes absolutely no sense, I think, to most Americans who have good common sense.
I want to get back to this concept of impeachment. Dozens of your Democrat colleagues are calling to impeach Secretary Noem. Watch this.
Yeah.
We will not stop fighting until we achieve real justice and accountability. That must begin with impeaching Kristi Noem and ensuring no federal agent can act as a judge, jury, and executioner on our streets.
You are terrible at doing your job. You are incompetent, you are shameless, but most of all, you are cruel. The American people do not want you.
Congressman, it seems to me that Ilhan Omar is using this, Minneapolis, as a way of detracting from and distracting from the problems that they're having in Minneapolis with the Somali fraud. It's a distraction. They're using it.
Yeah. And I always remember the context here. We had an election a little over a year ago And President Trump, the key issue in this election was, securing the border and dealing with people who are here illegally doing bad things. President Trump got the border secured in 4 months with the help of Secretary Noem. So that is the environment. And they're saying, for doing what you said you were going to do, securing the border in record time, stopping this influx of millions of people that was happening under the Biden administration, for doing that, your reward is we're going to try to impeach you? Again, it makes absolutely no sense, but I think you're right. The people in Minneapolis and in Minnesota are trying to distract from the 10, 12-year, in some cases 15-year fraud scams that were going on, where they said they were feeding kids, giving meals to children, when in fact they weren't. They were just sticking money in their pocket and a host of other things. So I think that's exactly what's going on.
There is there's some polling that shows that the public in general is not happy with the way ICE is conducting raids. I think it's 57% don't approve of the way they're going about doing their business. But after seeing that kind of video from last night, that's a pitched battle, and they're stealing weapons out of police cars. I can't believe that public opinion won't swing towards the GOP and President Trump and ICE. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And look, we'd prefer that ICE agents didn't have masks on, didn't have to do that. But in this context, in this environment, in the framework that the left has established, where you're doxing, tracking, harassing, taking pictures of, screaming, yelling, in some cases rioting, attacking with shovels.
Yeah, it's going on. Media coverage is being dissected in real time. Blue states are launching their own coordinated resistance campaign. Last night, anti-ICE protesters in Minnesota spiraled into vandalism and chaos. CNN brought on Democrat State Senator Bobby Joe Champion, who shrugged off potential weapons being used in the assault.
If there were neighbors and others who came out to help this person, that is just an example of Minnesota being a place where we help our neighbors. And we are clear that the ICE agents have been coming here, and there's over 2,000 of them. And they've been attacking and terrorizing our state. So, yes, neighbors will come out and be helpful. I'm not certain if they had brooms or a shovel. That is to be further investigated.
If they did, in fact, have some sort of weapons to use to attack the ICE officer, would that change your opinion of whatever unfolded next?
Actually, no, right? Because from our vantage point, we wanted to make sure and always wanted to make sure that Minnesotans are being dealt with properly. And when we think in terms of any pursuit or any apprehension of anyone, there's a way for you to do your work where it's respectful and it's fair. We unfortunately have seen ICE not be respectful, not be fair, but to be illegal and to attack and to be very aggressive with Minnesotans. And to see that the federal government has made a decision to attack and send more and more agents here and allow them to be, allow them to misbehave, we think that's a tragedy and a travesty.
Yeah, keep trying, dude. Keep trying. There's no amount of rhetoric that you can spill anywhere that's going to have a lick of difference, because the American people see right through it. We see right through it. New Jersey legislature passes radical bill banning ICE from enforcing federal immigration law. Prohibits stops based on status, blocks access to jail, restricts data sharing with the feds. This suspect's name, weapons are released as critics focus on different aspects of the cultural implications. Let's see what's going on here. ICE releases identities of 3 men involved in the ICE-involved shooting last night in Minneapolis. From high school walkouts to private phone calls between federal state officials, this is escalating. Imagine showing this video to the Founding Fathers and telling them this is what the average high schooler in Minnesota looks like. Oh, my goodness. I don't even want to look. Unbelievable. That's the state of the country. That's the state of the high school. You see these videos, they're going to go viral all the time. They go viral all the time. Let's keep going. We got more. Noem reveals she personally told Tim Walz in a private conversation with Tim Walz while federal property destruction adds criminal charges to the mix. Let's see.
To him just a couple of days ago.
And what did he say when you told him to chill out?
I said, Tim and I served together in Congress. We both ran for governor at the same time. We have very different ways of governing. Our state in South Dakota was extremely successful and grew economically and safety. He drove it into the ditch. And it has been an absolute disaster. He let it burn down in 2020 and then asked surrounding governors to send our National Guard to help him because he waited too long to make any decisions to bring peace. I'm worried that he's doing the same thing.
I understand that history, but when you approached him on the phone and made your appeal, what did he say?
I said, sir, listen, Tim, you know the situation, what's going on. We are enforcing federal law. If you don't like the laws, go change them, but don't do it by giving place to these protesters and rioters that are perpetuating violence. And I said, you have my personal cell phone. You call me. If you need me, you call me. We will be there to help back you up, but protect your city, protect your state. And he paused for a few seconds, and he just said, yeah, okay. We have very different viewpoints of what's going on. I said, maybe we do, but we will be here if you need us, because that's our goal every day, is to keep people safe.
That's the goal. They just want to keep people safe, but they won't let them. Federal vehicles destroyed, property stolen, media personalities are making even more inflammatory comments. Peaceful protests do not result in destruction of federal vehicles and theft of federal property. The press secretary, Democrats like Walz, are using their platforms to encourage violence.
The president's Truth Social post spoke very loud and clear to Democrats.
Oops.
The president's Truth Social post spoke very loud and clear to Democrats across this country, elected officials who are using their platforms to encourage violence against federal law enforcement officers, who are encouraging left-wing agitators to unlawfully obstruct legitimate law enforcement operations. And if you talk to any law enforcement officer, no matter what level they work at, they want to be working with their counterparts, whether that's at the federal level or the federal authorities wanting to work with their counterparts at the state and local level. And it's truly shameful that now for more than a year, you've had elected Democrat governors and mayors who have basically held their state and local law enforcement hostage and told them, you cannot cooperate with federal law enforcement. Why? They cooperated under the Biden administration. It's because these Democrats are deranged in their hatred for President Trump, and they are holding their state and local law enforcement hostage as a result. And these Democrat mayors and governors are doing this over what? Over the lawful and legitimate law enforcement operations to remove violent criminals from the streets of Minnesota, from the streets of California, from the streets of New York, and from the streets of every state across this country. And you don't see these riots and this vandalism taking place in states like Florida. Why? Because you have a governor in that state who has empowered federal and local authorities to work together. And it's despicable what we're seeing from these Democrat politicians, especially in sanctuary states and cities across the country.
Oh, she wasn't done, though. She was not done. She's got more. Our cameras were rolling. Here she is laying out the facts.
To your first point, I think I've addressed that these Democrat governors and mayors in not just Minnesota, but in states across the country are essentially, they've referred to ICE agents who, again, are brave men and women. And I would encourage everyone in this room, and I would encourage Governor Walz and other Democrats who are demeaning law enforcement to sit down and have a cup of coffee with an ICE agent or a Border Patrol agent. These are great, patriotic men and women who have families, who put on the uniform every day and are following our nation's immigration laws at the direction of their bosses and again, at the direction of the law. They are simply trying to enforce the law. And the Democrat Party has demeaned these individuals. They've even referred to them as Nazis and as the Gestapo. And that is absolutely leading to the violence we're seeing in the streets. If you look at some of the images out of Minneapolis last night, look at this vehicle. Look at what it says. It says F ICE. You have these individuals who are putting their middle finger, proudly so, at the camera. Another ICE individual, a vehicle that was vandalized last night by these left-wing agitators. People don't do this without encouragement from people in power who make them feel like it's okay. Here's another one. And I'm pretty sure this car, you can't see it, said the best agent is a dead agent, or something to that effect. This is despicable rhetoric that we're seeing, and the media is absolutely complicit in this violence, because if you look at the headline from CNN, protests erupt after federal agent shoots man in Minneapolis, that is not the story, that is not the truth. If you actually want to know the truth, you can look at what the Department of Homeland Security released, which is that this ICE agent was executing a targeted operation against a Venezuelan illegal alien who was unlawfully present in the country, who fled by car and then fled by foot. And when this ICE agent tried to detain the individual, 3 more of his comrades came rushing out of a house and started ambushing and attacking the ICE agent. They used a shovel or a broom to smash his face in. And so yes, that agent had to use self-defense and take up his weapon to protect his own life. That is what's happening on the streets of Minneapolis. That's what's happening on the streets, unfortunately, of these Democrat-run cities and states where you have elected officials who are encouraging such violence against our brave men and women in law enforcement.
Caroline Leavitt, always on fire. And the press secretary's response to the media bias caps off the administration's defense, but Tim Walz is making his own appeal, apparently. All 3 of the illegal aliens involved in last night's attack let in the country by the Biden administration. Walz's direct appeal to Washington gets immediate response while most serious criminal allegations emerge on the scene. Here it is, the press secretary nuking a fake news reporter. Wait till you see this.
Earlier, you were just
buckle up. Buckle up. Oh, yeah, she knows
defending
what's going.
ICE agents generally. And earlier on, Secretary Noem spoke to the media, and she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 U.S. citizens were detained by ICE. And Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Now, if you heard a little accent in his voice. You heard that? Foreign press in our house. Oh yeah, he's about to get nuked.
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed it unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist, and it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat. But you're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing activist. And the question that you just raised and your answer proves your bias. You should be reporting on the facts. You should be reporting on the cases. Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed at the hands of illegal aliens who ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't. I bet you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungray or all of the innocent Americans who were killed at the hands of illegal aliens in this country. And the brave men and women of ICE are doing everything in their power to remove those heinous individuals and make our communities safer. And shame on people like you in the media who have a crooked view and have a biased view and pretend like you're a real honest journalist.
Look at his face. Oh, the face he makes.
Earlier, you were just defending ICE agents.
She's berating him.
ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't.
Just look at his
I bet
face.
you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungray or all of the innocent Americans who were killed at the hands of illegal aliens in this country. And the brave men and women of ICE are doing everything in their power to remove those heinous individuals and make our communities safer. And shame on people like you in the media who have a crooked view and have a biased view and pretend like you're a real honest journalist.
Oh, yeah, he's queuing it up. Getting ready to punch back, but no, you can't punch back against Caroline Leavitt. Here's the White House responding to Tim Walz's direct appeal.
The White House has now responded. Tim Walz, Jacob Frey, And Democrat leaders in Minnesota have done nothing but turn up the temperature, smear heroic ICE officers, and incite violence against them, all in the defense of criminal illegal aliens. In Minnesota, ICE has arrested rapists, drug traffickers, domestic abusers, and more, despite the Democratic opposition. The Trump administration will protect the American people and enforce the law without apology. Quick response, a lot to say. Your reaction. First reaction here on the Faulkner Focus, Clay Travis.
They're 100% right. And Harris, you remember this. In 2020, when we demonized police, what happened? Murder skyrocketed across the entire country, and we didn't let good law enforcement officers do their job. Now Minnesota, Frey, Walz, they are deciding to demonize ICE officers. They're making them targets, and they are going to increase the overall level of violence in this country. I think President Trump has to step up aggressively, say we're not going to do this. Remember what happened in L.A.? He sent in all the forces, and everything stopped in L.A. We got to do it in Minneapolis, too. It's out of control.
Not out of control for long, because when the Insurrection Act is called in, all bets are off. Anti-ICE protesters stealing weapons. FBI officials search for those responsible. Kash Patel confirming today that they do have one person in custody. I have not seen this yet, but crazy. Oh my goodness. There's literally... Oh, wow.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Bullets? There's some bullets. Hey, that's a 47. I don't know.
They are stripping that FBI vehicle of everything. And they're recording it. They don't even care.
No way. Tourniquet there?
Unreal.
Okay. Hey, don't film that. He's out running. No. Oh, shit.
Anti-ICE protesters. Completely stripping. I've never seen anything quite like it. A weapons locker in a federal vehicle. The FBI is still searching for those responsible. One person apparently in custody still. These people have no shame at all. So let me get this straight. ICE agents are being shot at while trying to arrest Venezuelan criminals that the previous administration let in. Protesters stealing federal weapons and Democrat governors are actively making law enforcement officers targets. Does this look like a protest? No. That's a crime scene. It's an armed resistance to immigration enforcement, and it's happening in your backyard. So here's a reality check. When protesters start stealing weapons from federal agents, we've moved beyond political disagreement into something much darker. ICE is trying to arrest rapists and drug dealers while Democrat politicians actively obstruct them and make officers targets for violence. Meanwhile, armed rioters are loose with stolen federal weapons. The question isn't whether this will escalate, it's how far that it will go before someone else gets killed. Do you think Democrat governors should be held responsible when their anti-ICE rhetoric leads to violence against federal agents? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, check out the Next News merch shop.
The system controls information. Information control is power. They don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.